Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing the Barricade Extreme HD front bumper with the LED fog lights, spotlights, and the LED light bar, available for the 04 to 08 F-150. You should be checking this out if you're looking for an entry-level front bumper, one that's going to beef up the front end appearance of your F-150, but also make you a little bit more durable and resistant to off-road and on-road trail hazards. Now this guy here is made from a 5/32 inch steel plating with a black powder-coated finish on top with an epoxy pre-coating. That black powder-coated finish is going to add that corrosion and rust-resistant layer to the steel that you want so it can last a long time. Now this bumper itself, when it comes to design, is a lot more angular and more aggressive than your factory one, and the fact that it is a powder black finish makes it a little bit stealthier at the front end too. You get a little bit more ground clearance at the front end. It comes up a little bit higher off the ground than your factory bumper, and it's got this higher angle at the wheels too, so you get a better approach angle as well. Now this bumper is modular, which is a really cool thing. While it is entry level in terms of the bumper design and it being just kind of your generic off-road front bumper, it is modular in the sense that it has these cutouts on the side for fog lights and a cutout in the middle for a light bar. Now this is the upgraded package for the Barricade Extreme HD front bumper, so it comes with all of those things to bolt it right up out of the box. This is going to come with two LED cube lights, 3-inch cube lights that'll fit in these corner pockets. It's also going to come with two LED spotlights, which are more of a fixated light, similar in housing and design, but the interior LEDs are a little bit more fixated for the spotlight design. And then finally, you get the LED light bar, which is perfect for that cutout right in the middle there. Now the nice thing about all of this is it comes with 3 wiring harnesses, one for the fog lights, one for the spotlights, and then of course one for the light bar. With those wiring harnesses, you get 3 individual switches that you can then customize and run into your cabin there on the driver's side, so you have 3 switches controlling each kind of light. Now, I'd recommend installing 1 spotlight on each side, 1 fog light on each side, and then of course the light bar goes right in the middle. That's pretty self-explanatory, but it's up to you how you lay everything out on your truck. You can customize it that way. Wiring can be a little bit custom as well, but I'd recommend running everything to the battery, and then of course straight in through the firewall to the driver's side. But again, there's a number of different ways to do that. Now this bumper is going to come in right around $1,000. It is a little bit more expensive because it is the all-inclusive Barricade Extreme HD package. If you're not interested or you don't have a need for all of this lighting, there's 1 notch down where you can just get 2 of the LED fog lights to go in each of these cutouts and no light bar. And if you don't need any lighting at all, you can just get the bumper itself, which of course cuts down costs significantly. Now the install for this is going to get 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. The bumper itself is extremely easy to install. It'll take you about 2 hours from start to finish, and I definitely recommend having a helping hand on deck just to hold the bumper's weight while you work the ratchet and socket to make sure everything's bolted down properly and you don't injure yourself in the process, because the bumper can be pretty heavy. In terms of lighting, again, all of the wiring harnesses are plug and play. They come with little connectors and rings on them to make sure you can mount it to either a 12-volt ignition switch or the battery directly, and I'll be showing you the battery method. Now I'm going to show you every step of this process, so what do you say we get started? Tools used in this install include an impact gun, extension, 1/4 inch and 3/8 ratchet, 8 10mm deep sockets, 13 short and deep sockets, 16 and 21mm deep sockets, 13 and 16mm wrenches. All right, first step, getting our factory bumper off, we got to pop your hood, of course, and you're going to remove these 3 8mm bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, holding the plastic trim onto that bumper. I'm going to use my extension and my 8mm socket to get them off. All right, next up we have to take off our hood latch. Now the hood latch is just 1 10mm bolt. So we're going to put that there with our extension and get this off. All right, so that's disconnected. We're just going to set that aside right there. I'm actually going to take that factory 10mm and I'm just going to thread it back on so we don't lose it. All right, next up we have to do both of the grill bump stop brackets. That's this rubber piece here that follows all the way down to another 10mm. Grab your extension and socket and get that off, and do the same thing on the other side. And again, I'm just going to thread that bolt back on. All right, now we're doing the same thing on the other side. All right, for this next step, you could just crawl under the truck, but it might be easier for you to just reach your hand down here. I'm going to lift up this air flap here, and I'm just going to reach my hand in and pinch and disconnect our fog light. Basically just lifting it up on the tabs and pushing it down. There we go. Do the same thing on both sides. There are 4 nuts holding on the factory bumper, both of which you can reach from right under the hood here. So there's one right here, one on this side of the frame as well, and then of course on the other side of the vehicle. Grab a 21mm socket and your ratchet, and I'm gonna basically work these guys off from up top. You can of course crawl underneath the truck if it makes your life easier. Once you break them loose, you should be able to work them off by hand. The next one is directly on the opposite side of this frame rail here. You're just gonna go right across and do the same thing. There you go. And now we can do the same thing on the other side. All right, so now we're doing the same thing on the other side, looking at these 21mm nuts. You wanna make sure you're supporting the bottom of the front bumper there, just to make sure you're catching it if it falls off. Now we have one more on the other side of the frame here. All right, so I'm just getting this last bolt off. With that guy out of the way, the bumper is free, so you want to carefully pull it away from the truck and set it aside. All right, so we got our factory bumper off of our 07 F-150, and it's on the ground next to our all-inclusive Barricade HD Extreme front bumper here that also has fog lights and an LED light bar. Now, I want to take you through some similarities and differences between the two kits, and I first want to talk about construction. Now, your factory bumper is a little bit more susceptible to damage both on and off-road, and after upwards of a decade old, this is an 07, we're talking about it in 2020, you do the math, it's pretty up there. It's got some damage done to it. You can see it's looking a little worse for wear. So instead of picking up another factory bumper that's just as susceptible to damage, why not pick up an off-road one? Now this guy from Barricade is a complete one-piece 5/32 steel plating, and it's got a nice angular design to it and a really durable construction with a nice coating on top. Now that coating on top is going to be a 2-stage black powder coated finish with an epoxy pre-coating, and all of that high-grade materials there being a textured black powder coating, it's also going to add a layer of corrosion and rust resistance to that steel bumper. Now the bumper itself is also a little bit higher off the ground than your factory bumper, which has that air duct at the bottom, or the chin spoiler. Now that's going to hang down a little bit lower. Your new Barricade bumper here gives you a little bit more ground clearance, so you have a better approach angle for some of the obstacles off-road. The sides here come up at an angle as well, and with the rest of the angular design of the bumper there, it's a lot more aggressive looking, and the stealthy look comes from, of course, that black powder coating. Now the nice thing about this bumper is it's also modular. Now this particular package is more of an all-inclusive, like I said, so it also includes 4 individual 3-inch cube lights or fog lights, along with a light bar for the center. If you're interested in picking up auxiliary lighting for off-road, you might be looking at this particular package because it comes with everything out of the box. You don't have to piece together other things from the aftermarket world and make sure that it fits here. Everything included is perfectly going to fit in these cutouts on the side and the center. Now these side cutouts have a honeycomb backing here, which is removable. Now you can install both of those fog lights into the slots with the honeycomb backing in, or pop it out to give yourself a little bit more room for adjustment to accommodate for the housing of each cube light. Now each cube light uses 4 individual lights within themselves, which are a bright 6K LED color temperature, which is a pure white light, which is going to be really instrumental in getting you on and off-road safely, whether it be at night on the trails or on the job site. Finally, the light bar in the middle there is a star player. You don't see a lot of that included in some of the aftermarket bumpers, so it's a nice unique touch to this Barricade package. Now that light bar there uses a string of LED lights that are the same color temperature as the fog lights, so it'll match perfectly, and it's going to light up a ton of room in front of your truck off-road. Now, if you're not interested in all of the lighting included in this package, which can carry a little bit of a heavier price tag at around $1,000, you can also pick up a similar package with the same bumper and only 2 fog lights, no light bar, for a little bit less. And if you don't need lighting at all, you can just get the bumper by itself for a lot less as well. So you can definitely piece together how you'd like it. There are a package out there for everyone. At this point, what I want to do is focus on installing our brackets, get our bumper installed, and then we'll tackle all of the lighting, which includes all of the wiring necessary. So what do you say we get started? All right, first step here, we're going to take our bracket, and we have our driver's side bracket, and I'm going to slide that guy into position. Now what you want to do is take one of the hex bolts along with a flat washer, put that through the front. You also want to take a flat washer and a block washer, a split washer, and put it through the back. All right, once you have those on, take one of the nuts and thread it on through the back. Doing everything by hand at first. That guy in place, do the same thing on this other side. All right, now when you tighten this guy down, you want to try to get it centered on both sides so it's nice and even. Grab a 16mm wrench and a 16 socket and tighten them down. Same thing on the other side. All right, now we can tighten it down. All right, next up we're going to install our grill relocation brackets. Now this is going to go right on the front, the top two holes, put the bracket on the front of it. You can go underneath with a smaller hex bolt, follow it up with the same process as before using a flat and split washer, and then a nut on the back side. So that one will hold it up, and then we have to do another one right next to it. All right, grab a 13 socket and wrench and tighten them down. Now I'm going to use an extension for the 13 socket as well. All right, now we can repeat this on the other side. All right, at this point you can basically get your bumper in position, have a helping hand on deck just because it is pretty heavy. Crawl underneath and work the bolts. All right, so now we can line up our bumper and tighten down these bolts. All right, now at this point, depending on which model you have, you may have to install a hood latch relocation bracket. Because ours is still using this factory plastic piece, we can pop our bracket right back on, following up with that factory 10mm bolt. I'm going to tighten that guy down. Also, a similar case applies to our bump stops. Now, we did install these bump stop relocation brackets on the sides. We attached those to the brackets holding our bumper on. Depending on what model you have, you may have the shorter bump stops, in which case, install those shorter bump stops to this slot here. If you have a model with the longer bump stops, like the ones that we took off, that's not going to work with this bracket. You can omit those altogether, and it'll just connect to the hood latch here. At that point, you're good to go. All right. And when it comes to installing the fog lights, there are 3 individual slots at the top of this interior cutout. I'm going to position my fog light to the inside here. That way we can leave room for another light. Now, what you want to do first is grab this wiring harness and you want to feed it through the square cutout at the top of the honeycomb. You can remove the honeycomb backing if you'd like, but there is a specific cutout for the wiring harness so you can feed that through. At this point, you want to make sure your finger's on the inside here holding that bolt head up, and you want to take this nut off. Set that guy down just there. At that point, you want to feed this bolt up through whichever slot you want to position it in, just like that. And you're basically either going to crawl underneath or reach your hand over top to tighten down the nut from the inside. All right, so now we have this bolt put into that slot. I'm going to go up underneath, and I'm just going to tighten down that 13mm nut by hand, and then we'll come back with our socket. The nice thing about this is once you have that tightened down by hand, you can actually position the fog light where you want it and then come back and tighten it down. All right, so I like that position, so now we can tighten that guy down. All right, so at this point, we can do the same thing on the other side. All right, so next we want to talk about wiring harnesses. Now I'm going to show you one method, and there's a number of different ways to skin a cat when it comes to wiring. So you can run this however you like, whatever you see fit, but it does come with a wiring harness here for every fog light or every set of lights that you may get with this kit, and it includes a switch. So you can run this to the dashboard on your driver's side. You have to feed it through the firewall, of course, to get it into the cabin, but I'm just going to show you guys a loose way of wiring this up to your battery. Now, do not use this method if you're not driving your truck every day. It's going to be constantly pulling power from the battery to illuminate the lights on this switch. And if you're driving your truck every day, your battery won't die. It's going to keep regenerating itself every time you drive it, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. But if you're not driving your truck every day, it will eventually run your battery dry and kill the battery because it's constantly pulling power for this light switch. Now, the alternative method to avoid that is to run your power and ground here to a 12-volt ignition switch that only draws power when the key is in the ignition and the ignition is turned on. So that's the alternative. I'm going to run it to our battery just for demonstration purposes, but if you're driving your truck every day, it shouldn't be a problem there either. So what we're going to do at first is just lay our wiring harness up here with our switch, the fuse, and of course the power and ground wires. I'm going to wire the power and ground to our battery. We're basically going to loosen up this bolt here on the negative terminal, and I'm going to put this ring right around that and put the nut back on, and then do the same thing for the power here on the positive terminal. So that's what we're going to do next. Grab a socket and a ratchet, and we're going to loosen those up and install those. I've got my 10mm socket and ratchet. I'm just going to loosen up this negative terminal. Grab the black wire, and you're going to pop that guy onto that stud and then thread that nut back on. And do the same thing with the red wire to the positive terminal. All right, now if you have any other accessories that you're running to this, any other wiring harnesses, it's this exact same method, so just rinse and repeat for each one that you may have. All right, so basically what I did was I fed down the connectors through the engine bay down underneath of the truck here. You're basically gonna take the light we just installed and you're gonna plug in the plug and play connector. and then take the other one and feed it all the way over to the driver's side, and then you can tuck up or zip tie up any excess wire. All right, so I fed the other side of the wiring harness to our driver's side, and again, it's just plug and play. Once you have that connected, you can tuck up any excess wiring or zip tie that however you feel, depending on how much you have left. And then of course, if you have additional wiring, you can always repeat the same exact process for the rest of the additional ones. All right, now the light bar is pretty easy, although you do have to crawl underneath the truck for it. Now I'm going to rotate the light bar so it's facing down, so we have a little bit more room with these brackets that are on that swivel. Take your bolt along with a flat washer, and you're basically going to feed this in so that the bolt drops down into that bracket there that's already on the side of the light bar. Do that on both sides. You can't really get your hand in there if the light bar is facing forward. So now that you have the bolts in there, you can start rotating this so that the brackets are on the bottom and the light bar is facing forward, just like that. From here, we can drop it into the bumper here, making sure the bolts go through those brackets on the sides. All right, so just make sure the bolts go through. And it should sit there by itself while you put the washers and nuts on the bottom. All right, now this is a pretty awkward angle. Basically, you're gonna hold down the bolt from the top to the inside while you feed on the washer. All right, once you have that washer in place, split washer comes next. And then finally, there's just a couple of threads for the nut. All right, do the same thing on the other one. Once you get that tightened down, make sure your light bar is aligned right in the middle of that opening on the bumper, and then you can tighten down these bolts. Grab your 13 socket and ratchet and tighten this guy down. All right, so at that point, we just basically did the same wiring. We're just gonna plug in our connectors. All right, keep in mind guys, we're doing the exact same wiring over and over for each of the fog lights and now again for the light bar. And then you'll probably want to take some time to make sure all of the wiring under the hood is nice and neat. And then of course run your switches, if you're doing this method, into the driver's side of the cabin there. So a lot of custom things you got to do to make sure that this is going the way that you want it to be for your personal preference. I'm just showing you the quick and easy route. And here's the very last step. We're going to plug in the lighting harness for the light bar, tuck up that wiring, and you're good to go. Now when you tuck up the wiring, you want to make sure you're zip tying it back if you have those, or if you have any other electrical connectors that you can connect them to up here. Sometimes wiring harnesses have retainer pins, so depending on your model, you may have to pin it back a certain way depending on how your wiring is run back here. That's going to wrap up my review and install for the Barricade Extreme HD front bumper with the LED fog lights, spotlights, and the LED light bar for the 04 to 08 F-150. It's available for your truck right here at AmericanTrucks.com.